Your comments make the show better. Send us your thoughts live on our Facebook channel to be the star of today's show. Can't catch us live? Hit us up on our other social media channels to have your say. For now, welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show.
Good morning, Canada. Hello. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show on this Tuesday, April the 28th. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? It is rain pounding off the roof of the tower here of IKS Media and the Rod Pedersen Show. That, folks, is the sound of money. It is raining like hell out there.
Oh, yeah.
Farmers are, it's a good day around here. And welcome to episode 222 of Canada's Morning Sports Talk Show. I'm Rod Pedersen. He's Darren DuPont. Hi.
Hi.
There's a comment that caught my eye, and I'm going to go to it right off the bat here. People were in the groove, in the chute, ready to roll before we even went there. BK Graham writes, one of our viewers in Saskatoon says, "This is cool. I have the show streaming on my 60-inch TV from my cell. Learned something new today. Ha, ha, ha." Sorry, BK. That's a lot of me coming at you.
Yeah, it is.
You might want to go back. I don't know. But everybody's joining us for coffee today. I want to say good morning to everybody. Thank you. Ready to talk sports, dudes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Come on in, Bryn. One of our do you need to get through? He's a mime back there. He's one of the few guys that doesn't yell back at me when I asked him. Do you honestly need to go? Because feel free.
I used to be able to do sign language.
Yeah. Today, don't you have a relation that's hard of hearing or something?
Somebody I worked with as a kid. Actually, one of my first jobs was working with somebody who signed.
But if you don't use it, you lose it.
Absolutely. That was a long time ago.
Pretty excited about today's guests, quite frankly. I don't have the time. I didn't look up the times. Clark always puts it up here. DeQuinn Evans is going to be joining us shortly. Remember the movie Gridiron Gang starring The Rock?
Yes.
DeQuinn Evans played on the team that the movie Gridiron Gang was modeled after. Went on to play in the National Football League with the Bengals, in the CFL with the Calgary Stampeders and BC Lions. And I know DeQuinn not well, but he's a friend of a friend of a friend. And we've got a nice pipeline of friends of friends of friends coming on the show. So a member of the original Gridiron Gang, CFL alum, Grey Cup champion DeQuinn Evans is going to join us. And by the way, he's got a hell of a story that's coming up here in hour one. JC Lapon of the Manitoba Moose is going to be joining us. And that's really interesting because the AHL is on my mind. And I know that our listeners can't see it, but check this out. That's a Lapon jersey on my chair.
Cool.
That was gifted to us by our social media advisor, Ty Dacu. Apparently they're buds. JC signed it, gave it to Ty. He brought it in here. And I've got my JC Lapon bobblehead here. This is here to stay. This is at my house in my Hall of Fame museum collection of paraphernalia. The sports doctor sent me that from Winnipeg because he knew that I was such a big fan of JC Lapon.
That's cool. I didn't realize we were going to have so much JC Lapon gear.
Who knew?
For one interview. Who knew?
Who knew? So JC Lapon's going to be joining us probably from right down the street. I would assume that he's home during the shutdown in the American Hockey League. And we'll get the AHL players' take on where things are at. And then curling. Saskatchewan's other super curling team. Curling super team, Colton Flash, Caitlin Schneider are both going to be joining us at the same time. It's our first three-way video chat of interview guests on this show. We've done it on our recovery show before, so the boys know how to do it. So I'm looking forward to that. You?
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Everybody writing in about, Katie Fleury, one of our viewers watching, she says, "Rod, why Robbins and not Tim's? LOL. Ooh? I try to spread my love around. I'm a big coffee guy. I go to Robbins, I go to Tim's, I go to Starbucks, I go to Good Earth, I go to Brewed Awakenings. I'm quite a big fan of. And, of course, Caliber Coffee here. We'd all be sipping on that, but we're not allowed to make coffee. Wasn't that the safety guy that said we can't make coffee?
Yeah, that was the safety guy. And so I got to call Jeff, find out where does that fit on the reopening Saskatchewan plan. Like, you know, when we're reopening Saskatchewan, when can we reopen the coffee bar?
When can we make coffee from Caliber Coffee? Because it's so good when it hits your lips. Well, I see you've gone back to not wearing socks, and our viewers have noticed that too.
Yeah.
So
since the announcement, the reopening the province, I'm reopening my feet.
Gotcha. Okay.
I made that decision.
Oh, boy. The sports doctor is watching this morning, by the way. Dave, thanks for remembering this. He's watching in Winnipeg, and he says, you were a star when we went to the Moose-Stockton game, Rod. Thanks for remembering, Dave. He took me to a Manitoba Moose game, which, frankly, you know that I love all levels of hockey. So we were cruising the concourse of, at the time, the MTS Center. Now, what is it, Bell MTS Place?
Yep.
And I was getting catcalled and yelled at by Winnipeggers. And Dave thought it was hilarious.
Of course.
Pretty good to have a guy, of Dave's bodyguard size to protect me on the streets of Winnipeg. I don't think it's as bad as now as it was then, but they were yelling at me, Darren. My feelings were hurt.
Were you wearing a Rider shirt by chance?
No, I wasn't. And I was there for Mark's CFL week. That's why I was there. And then I told Dave my connection to the Lapon family and my fondness for JC. So when they had JC Lapon bobblehead night, he made sure to go down to the Moose and get one and ship it to me.
Awesome.
So that's how good a friend Dave Pedersen is. He also, by the way, informed me this morning that I am in the Bombers' Road to the Grey Cup video, which just dropped this. Well, Clark's head just popped up. What?
I haven't seen it.
I know. Dave emailed it to me. We should actually pull a clip. I could have sent it to you guys. You guys have all the technology where you could do that.
Yeah.
But thank you, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, for including, when I say me, it's the Rod Pedersen Show. They've included in there. And I said to Dave, what, are they mocking me for my ridiculous predictions? And he's like, no, it's actually quite nice. So he sent it to me. I'll play it for you after the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait.
So thank you, David. Thank you for everything. So those are the guests. Are you ready for the quick show topics here? In the Rollout for Flooring Superstore and our friends, I would say instead of vacuuming or sweeping the floor, just get all new flooring from Flooring Superstore once they reopen. What the hell? Why not?
Why not?
Stimulate the economy. Yesterday, Dustin Nielsen from TSN 1260 Edmonton, friend of ours, and his sidekick, Lieutenant Eric, did a thing of their Mount Rushmore of Canadian athletes, which I didn't think was that interesting at the time. And then I got thinking, that is kind of interesting because everybody's will be different. It's now trending on Twitter over the last 24 hours, Dustin Nielsen's idea of his Mount Rushmore of Canadian athletes. So I did mine. I want you guys to think of yours. And that's the big theme throughout the program today, because frankly, what the hell else we got to talk about? What's your Mount Rushmore of Canadian athletes? And as I move on to point two, I will just say, here's mine. Wayne Gretzky, Steve Nash, Lionel Conacher, Katrina LeMay-Doan. I'm pretty confident in that list. And I was thinking, I need a football player. Wait a minute. The big train was both. Won a Stanley Cup and a Grey Cup.
Yeah,
Lionel Conacher. So that's two guys in one.
That was the curveball. Lionel Conacher. And then you start looking really at his resume.
He's Canada's athlete of the first half of the century. So there's that. And listen, hear me out on this. Donovan Bailey, not on my list. Why? Not born in Canada, born in Jamaica. Is it non-inclusive? Yes. But guess what? So is the Canadian Football League. You weren't born in Canada, you don't qualify as a Canadian. So don't at me. You have to have been born in Canada to make my Mount Rushmore of Canadian athletes. Because you don't think I thought long and hard about, am I going to get nailed to the cross for this? For not including people not born in Canada? CFL does the same thing.
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right. I think that's okay. You got to have your own, stipulations. I heard somebody saying, you're going to put this guy in over all of these curlers. They're so much better and more decorated in the country. Are they really relevant outside the country? Do they represent, Canada on an international stage? I don't know. All the guys you listed did. And
I wanted, frankly, a female in there. So Katrina LeMay-Doan strokes that off the list. Multiple Olympic medalist. Doesn't hurt that she's from Saskatoon. Gretzky, Steve Nash, Lionel Conacher. Pretty confident in my list.
And you could have a bunch of hockey players. You could have Gordie Howe. You could have other ones. You could have Lemieux. But this isn't a Mount Rushmore of hockey players. You pick one person to represent hockey. You pick somebody else to represent another sport. Christine Sinclair might have hit my list instead of LeMay-Doan. That'd be my only change. I didn't have Conacher on the top of mind, but now I can't argue with it.
It's pretty hard to. Christine Sinclair is the all-time leading scorer in Canadian women's soccer history international competition. Correct?
International period. I don't even know if it was just Canadian.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's what's fun about lists.
Yeah.
I thought you were startled by the pounding rain on the roof of this building.
Looking around for some support here.
You're not getting
fact-checking.
Not from these guys. They're all putting their own lists together. Point two is you're seeing it a lot. Will there be a CFL season? You're seeing it everywhere, particularly in Western Canada where the CFL is so strong. I don't know. I'm hearing very discouraging things about what employees are being told So if you put it to a vote today, which is not our poll question, I would actually say no. But I don't know any more than anything. It's just I'm hearing more discouraging things. Yeah. It's odd that you're talking about opening up the economy in phases, yet furloughing a season, if you will. Doesn't make much sense to me. I'm just hearing not good things. If I'm wrong and there's good things to know, fill me in. Because believe me, I want a season as much as anybody.
Well, of course we do. It's discouraging for sure. There's not a lot of encouraging news, and I come back down to as we get into the end of April and into May, we probably need to start hearing from the league on an almost weekly basis or every couple of weeks. It's got to be more frequent. Keep everybody positive, unless there's really no good news to report or there's no optimism. But there's always room to be positive and optimistic, and to try and keep your fan base positive until that point when you cancel the season. So, yeah, I hope to hear from them again soon.
I think you've hit on something there. They're not saying anything because there is no good news to pass along. Moving on to point 3, if we're going to be talking NFL more than we normally do, I'm going to really need to be brushing up on my National Football League knowledge, which, by the way, is fun. And this morning, watching ESPN's Get Up, they say the New England Patriots are the leading team for the services of one Cam Newton. And they talked about his injury history. A foot injury kept him out of most of last year. We've all seen him carried off the field with concussion problems. I get it. But we also saw that with Zach Caleros. Remember him?
I did.
So I'm thinking, if you're the New England Patriots, why the hell wouldn't you? Jarrett Stidham, 4th-round pick. Brian Hoyer, who? Not even a household name in his own house. Really? Don't you think Newton goes to the Patriots?
Well, and Newton's, he's a former league MVP. He brings that credibility. He's got a bit of the ego, a bit of the flash and the flair and all that kind of stuff. Would he clash with Bill Belichick, or would he be able to become, part of that system and really, succeed? I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know what else they have for options. You mentioned the other two guys they have. They didn't draft a quarterback in the NFL draft. So what other options do they have? The only other thing that makes even any sort of sense is to try and pull off some sort of a trade for Aaron Rodgers after they drafted Jordan Love. But I don't know that they're drafting Jordan Love to start right away. They want him to, groom him for a couple of seasons, right? So that's kind of on the table too. But yeah, I could see Cam Newton going to New England.
Interesting, too, that Aaron Rodgers' nose is supposedly out of joint because they've drafted his heir apparent. Ho, 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 ho. He can't be that dense.
Right?
That's a topic for another time.
He did the same.
He did the same thing. Wow. We'll come back on that. Point 4, The Last Dance, episodes 3 and 4 dropped on Netflix last night. I hope you watched them because you guys all did, because you knew there'd be a test today.
Yeah.
And it goes, this one wasn't as much on how Scottie Pippen got screwed and the greatness of Michael Jordan as it was about the rivalries with the Detroit Pistons in the 90s and Dennis Rodman. They went deep on Dennis Rodman. But there is that common underlying theme of who wins championships, players or organization, and the growing divide between the players and coaches and the owners and the general manager, Jerry Krause. So our poll question today is, who wins championships, players or organizations? And it's for Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center. And I understand that people don't really understand what that means. Joe's fan doesn't. I think you got to go back and watch the organization or watch the documentary as to why. I apologize. One of our sponsors is texting me wanting our sales guy's number, Camco from Bronco Plumbing and Heating. He's just all over me about the number. I'm on the air. Just hang on, Camco. I'll get to you. Can't do two things at once. Not good at multitasking. Studies will tell you that nobody is, even though women say that they are. Anyways, the point on this whole organizations win championships, not players, is that organizations, in my opinion, and in a lot of players' opinions, think they can just plug and play, and they don't really respect the talent. They don't respect the great ones. Oh, we'll just say goodbye to this guy, and we'll bring in this guy. There'll be no drop-off. So I think players win championships, not that organizational mindset of that. They don't respect the talent. They don't respect the people. They think that the organization's bigger than the people, and I don't. So I would vote for players win championships, but you've got 24 hours to vote on that. And right now, that's what's leading the poll by a considerable margin. 64% of you saying players win, but 36% say organizations. I just hope I've explained the difference between the two well enough.
Yeah.
And did I even do it right?
Right. And I think you, excuse me, when you're betting for or you're voting for teams or organizations, that's how we've grown up being trained that, nobody's bigger than the logo on the front. The name on the front's bigger than the name on the back. Well, that's teams. You need a team to win as opposed to individual players. But when you're talking about the organization as a whole, it's the people in the organization. You're absolutely right. I mean, the people are the identity of the organization, and the organization can't withstand the loss of all its key people. And that includes the ticketing guy, the marketing guy, anybody who's in the front office to being on the coaching staff to being in the locker room and on the ice or on the court or the field. You need all of your people. Yeah, you're right. It's people who win championships. It's the collective group of people. It's not the organization and the brand that wins the championship.
No, and not all players are equal. And I think a lot of them, the organizations and the top cheeses, see the staff, the players, as equal, and they're not. And there was a great line last night in the documentary regarding Dennis Rodman's time with the Pistons, and the assistant coach was just all over Rodman, trying to teach him, different strategy. And the head coach just said, forget it, let him be.
Yep.
You can't put a saddle on a Mustang.
You can't.
Right.
You got to just let him go.
Right.
And hope to.
Right. Some of us are Mustangs. Some of us are Shetland ponies. Moving on to point 5, SJHL Sim. Come on for the popularity of this. There's more people watching the damn highlights of last night's video game than are watching this show. It's unbelievable.
I know.
And you called it with Amanda Ruler last night. And I'll just say this. The Battlefords North Stars beat the Nipawin Hawks in Game 7 in overtime. Elijah Loon Stewartson with the winner. And what did I say on the weekend? What did the Stars need to do?
Those guys needed to get going.
Get the Loon Stewartson boys going.
Yeah, and we'd said that. And sure enough, he has a hat trick in Game 7. We said in the sim, legends are made. In Game 7, the kid has a hat trick, including the overtime winner. It was cool. And
proud to say I called it.
They were fired up in the comments section. This was crazy. So it's a scoreless first period, and 2 seconds left. The captain of the Hawks, Jake Tremblay, drives to the net, totally hits Christian Lyons, the Stars goaltender, and blows him up. That hits the goaltender, and Dawson McKenzie comes and taps the puck in for the goal. They let it stand. So I got the SJ guys telling me who the refs are: Sean Dufour and Bob
Langen.
Oh, Mike Langen or Tristan Langen. So they tell the refs are, and people are blowing up. It shouldn't have been counted. In overtime, the Stars drive the net, don't touch the goalie, but he's standing in the crease and score. They wave it off. So
controversy.
So they were going livid in the thing. If the Stars would have lost last night, it would have been pretty fun.
Everybody's in tune with what's going on.
A video game.
By the way, Paul Drouin is watching, the infamous Paul. Ryan is sitting in your chair, Paul.
He's eating your porridge.
At this very moment. Yeah, he's eating your porridge and he's sleeping in your bed. I had mentioned that Paul is building ESPN, and nobody knows. The SJHL Sim is filmed from one of the floors down below us in the sound stage. All those photos that you're seeing and everything, and you were part of it last night, the whole production is done right from in this building. And Jordan, our director, was saying before you showed up today, very slick broadcast production. Great camera angles. He was saying he was kind of having fun.
We've got all the advanced stats and everything. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Can see it all.
Paul says, get out of his chair, Ryan. He's laughing at you, Paul. Nelson Hackowicz writes in and he says, esports is huge as it is, combined with a huge need for sports. No brainer that it's huge. Well, you never knew that you didn't know that it was going to work.
No.
And it has worked, and I'm into it. It looks great. I know that I'm going to be part of the broadcast coming up here, which is going to be fun. But I did say, give the young SJHL broadcasters the chance, not this old dog. Isn't it now Battlefords Yorkton and Flin Flon Melfort?
That's right.
In the semis? By the way, with Paul building ESPN, if you know anything about the building of ESPN, which I gave you the book to read, those boys have all the fun. It was a little regional broadcast network that was broadcast nationally And people were peering in, thought this is great, and it just grew and grew and grew. But it was just done regionally, and people enjoyed it so much that it spread. Lastly, because DeQuinn Evans is coming up, he's our first guest, original member of the Gridiron Gang, NFL, CFL vet. AHL. I was watching this pretty close. This morning I was pounding away on the bike, day 9 of the Tour de Rod, and I'm watching ESPN's Get Up on TSN, and it flashes across the bottom of the screen on the ticker, and it said, AHL season, likely it'll be canceled. And I shivered just because of my friends in the AHL, because I was thinking next year.
Right.
So as soon as I got off the bike, I raced to my laptop, typed in AHL news, and it was this year. This current year.
Oh.
And I'm like, they haven't pulled the plug yet?
Yeah.
What the hell are they waiting for? So it's not next year, but it's this year. And so it just so happened to be that we'll have JC Lapon of the Manitoba Moose on to maybe talk a little bit about that. But it's just interesting as a sports business junkie like I am to see how all the different business models are for all the leagues. Not every one is the same.
No.
The AHL does not have a national television contract. So they're saying if we got to play without fans, that's what our butters our bread. We're not going to play at all next year if we have to do that. Yeah. Then you got the CFL, who does have a national television contract. And where are you going to put the players? Every league, although they are all conferring, they all have vastly different issues.
Yeah. Then they're all, different nuances, and they're all operating just a little bit differently in a different set of circumstances. Very, very crazy to see this all play out. And one is going to do something, make a decision to do something. Be interesting to see how many follow that exact same, roadmap. They're going to have to change it a little bit, but yeah, it's very interesting to watch.
That is our quick 6 show topics, and throughout the program, if I sneak a glance at the board and I can read your top 4, your Mount Rushmore of Canadian athletes, I'll read them. You can write us on the Prairie Mobile text line 306-840-8777. When we come back, DeQuinn Evans will join us. On the way, JC Lapon of the Moose is mentioned, and from the other Saskatchewan curling super team, Colton Flash and Catlin Schneider. That's all coming up on this Tuesday. Canada's morning sports talk show continues after this break. It's the Rod Pedersen Show, Facebook Live, Game Plus TV Network, and listen live at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.